So can you tell me a little bit about the new record, in terms of how it would match up to, say, Warning?
I don't think it's going to match up to Warning because we didn't try and do that. I think we really just went for, okay, let me describe. I guess I'm probably best off by this is the first interview I've done with anything
For the record.
about the record.
Cool.
Number two, I guess the best way to describe the record is to tell you a little bit about the process, how we made it. We got off the last tour, the Pop Disaster tour, and that was with us and Blink, the whole thing. And phenomenal tour, great time. Basically, we came home, took a month and a half, 2 months off, and then started, kind of practicing here and there. Just hammering things out. I mean, I had to have carpal tunnel surgery. So it took me 3 days after that to start practicing again.
Wow.
With 2 fingers, and then 3, and then everything. So that took me out of the loop for about, the better part of 6 weeks, something like that. Then but I would still go to band practice every day, and I would literally help them, we'd be helping structure, we'd be doing whatever, writing songs, and through that process, we basically came up with, say about 16 songs that were really good, and it had been about 6 months or so, and these are songs that maybe we'd been writing for a while, and songs that we had come up with fresh and all this stuff, and they're really good songs, but I'd say moreover from that process, we had also come up with 2 or 3 songs over here that we thought were something worth chasing, We had those songs, and we turned in the record, and me and Billy got together, and we started talking, and we got together with Trey, and we just said, those are really good songs, but we've got these over here, and we kind of feel like, should we put out these and then wait 3 or 4 years to put out these other songs and chase this thing that we see kind of going on over here? So that was kind of it, and, so we decided to chase those and postpone things. Then we just kept practicing more. Rented out Studio 880, where they did where we recorded Warning, and they basically practiced and recorded and demoed every day for a year.
Wow!
Had fun. We probably came with a better part of 4 records, and it's 65 songs or something like that. And then definitely the most creative time of our lives.
Really?
Yeah, I would have to. As far as a multitude of creativity, and every one of us just expanding every bit of our horizons, and there was really no limits. I mean, there was things recorded in there that the world should never ever hear, just because that's how no limits it was. But I think within that, we got together. It was a big process of getting all of ourselves kind of on the same page and getting to re-know ourselves as people, as me, Billy, and Trey, and instead of just this, this 3-piece monster that runs around and tours and puts out records. We wanted to, I think it was just natural. It was nothing. I wish we were smart enough to make it so calculated, but it was just really a natural thing to get to know ourselves and musically come to a place where we're at right now. And I think where we're at right now, I mean, the record follows a certain theme. There's characters in the record. They definitely, it's autobiographical, but, kind of written through our eyes, maybe some other eyes and stuff. And there's some, there's some good tunes on it. How can I say? I mean, I can tell you.
I mean, can you give me some titles? Obviously, it's not going to mean a lot to me, but when the magazine comes out, the record will be out. So,
American Idiot is one.
Is that kind of a look at the kind of the world around us here? Or?
Well, it's it's not as oh fucking I hate politics, blah blah this that. It's none of that. It's absolutely it's in there, but it's more personal politics, and it's it's the kickstart to basically this journey that the record's going to take you through.
So building on that point, what is it that you do in Green Day? Obviously, you play bass guitar in Green Day, but as a trio, as sort of a band that really is made up of three really very good players. I mean, what is it you bring to the band? I mean, how do you work with Trey? I mean, how does that Mike Trey thing work?
Over the years, when we were real young, we were all surviving and living in our van and doing our thing. Touring. Trey was booking tours. We were all booking shows. Anything we could do. It was like tooth and nail to survive. And we really did that. I'm really, over the last year or so, I'm really excited that, thinking about those things. Anyway, back then we were kind of at a place where I think we're at now. And that is, over the years we've kind of become this thing, oh, Trey's a crazy drummer, and, Billy's, this insane songwriter with whatever his, what little innuendos are, and I'd become the mediator / bass player guy,
Mm-hmm.
and it was kind of about like throwing all that out the window. Our role, we all play an important role. We all play all the instruments. Everyone, and it can be really painful for your bandmates to tell you they don't like something in a song, especially when you're vulnerable and you put this song out on the table and you say, hey, this is what I got, and they go, well, I'm not feeling that. I really not, blah, blah, blah. And to get to a point where you take away all the rules and you say, you know what, just give it to me. Give it to me in its coldest, ugliest, hardest form. And, and the other thing that I think we really learned through this is it's not always just about like having it be right there, or all of us playing together and having it be right, but sometimes it's about going through the ugly and arduous process
Mm-hmm.
of making it right.
Mm-hmm.
Going through there's so many songs get forgotten about and left behind because you just like, oh, I don't like that. But there's that ugly side of it of if I don't go through the process of trying to make this what it was that I thought I wanted to write,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'll have never known.
Mm-hmm. So explain to me how you create a bass part. I mean, is it that Billy's come in with a guitar lick? I mean, where do you come from? Where do your roots and your influences? I mean, how do you approach a thing? Because really, your bass playing. I mean, when I listen to Warning, I mean, you're not like a flea. You're not like a guy who's out there in the front where the bass is really mixed out in front. You're kind of a real ensemble guy.
I choose my battles.
You choose your battles. Okay. I mean, who have you listened to? Where the sound of your bass? I don't mean to interrupt, but
the sound of the bass,
all of those things.
Well, it's. I think Flea's a great bass player. I thought Cliff Burton was a great bass player.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Who else? I mean, why is his name skipping me right? John McVie. If you want to go that far,
amazing bass player.
I think all really good songs that you hear have something in the bass, whether it's there's a warmth to it. The guy from the Strokes, he puts down really good bass lines, and it's not necessarily that you got to be out on Broadway. It's just that it's a warmth. There's a thing I've been working on a lot lately. Not lately, in the last 2 years now, and that is to take a song instead of making it Billy, Mike, and Trey. That's not to say we don't do that still, but to make it a piece of music that is just totally unified by sound. And there are some bands that have that really naturally, and there are some bands, it's like sometimes I got to strive for it, but I think everything, playing less is more sometimes.
You are a minimalist.
I think playing more is good too. I mean, there's definitely times I got all my fingers full. And then there's times where I'm just like, God, did I really need to play that much?
Tell me about the bass and guitar rig that you used to record. I mean, was there kind of a basic setup that you used? And I know that you have a new bass out.
Yeah. Right now I'm going for a different sound over the course of the last year or so. And I kept, I've been hitting up basically I know my bass sound. I know what I want. And
So what is it that you had? What was your bass sound?
I had my main sound prior to this was like anywhere from 1963 to 1974, rosewood fretboard, ash body P basses, and you know it's got to have a certain thing. It's got to cut through the middle because Billy's guitars are usually, you know, huge.
that they are. They tend to be pretty mid-range.
You know.
It's not like a high-endy thing. So it
Well, yeah, he gets this low and this mid. It's just kind of just big all over the board.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm cutting through. I really like the 2K that fretboard gives me. Ironically enough, every once in a while I will find a maple neck bass. And maple is, on average, brighter, but I find that for what I'm looking for, the rosewood is more consistent. But I'll find a maple neck that is milled really flat, and it will be extremely bright and even across the board instead of two convex that can make it a little round.
Understand.
It's weird. But anyway, so you know, I've worked with Fender a couple of years ago. I had them make me a 51P bass, which is the Telecaster looking bass, and yeah, and basically it took 2 years to get that thing out.
Really?
It's like I had to make it, sent it to me. First he sent me the wrong one. I was like, thanks. Try again. This one's a great bass. I'm keeping it. And then he sent me he sent me the regular body from 51.
Oh.
So and then so what we did, we made a Telecaster bass. It's got your 59 wrap P bass pickups. They're hot rod pickups. The rosewood fretboard. The 55 cutaway on it, so you're not railing your wrist. And it's yeah, and the ones that they've made are absolutely phenomenal. You know, I've got a lot of basses, a lot of expensive basses, a lot of cheap basses, everything in between. And I'm using 2 basses on the record right now, and that's one of them. We're all just blown away. And so, but it took 2 years to put together because, you know, they're busy, I'm busy, whatever, and eventually got together with a friend of mine, and we, my friend Chris Dugan, we put it all together on Photoshop, and made the bass, made all the basses, all the colors, everything, and sent it to Fender, and Fender was like, what the fuck? This should be made. And so it came together a lot faster after that.
That's amazing. So that change that you were talking about, you were looking for a thing. This new bass is this new sound that you were kind of looking for.
This bass is, you know, for years I've wanted. It's basically just me changing a look. It's the same sound I've been wanting to go for years, but I've always wanted to play one of these basses, and I've never had the heart to buy one for $2,500 or $3,000 and gut it and make it sound like shit, and then go, great, I ruined a $3,000 guitar.
Right.
And they originally came with one pickup that was kind of a country thing. You know, you kind of had to dial the sound through your amp, which is a really cool thing. I have one, and they never were offered with a rosewood fretboard before, which really put a balance to it. Instead of making the headstock look tiny and the neck just look like something that was just bolted onto this weird body, now it's kind of balanced. So, and it has the badass 2 bridge on it that'll never fail you.
Right. I mean, is there a reason that you wanted the Telly shape?
I've always wanted it.
You have.
You know what it is? I think bass players by nature are just freaks, and we don't have enough options for crazy guitars. Especially for something that works as good as a P bass. And in my opinion, really nothing works as good as a P bass.
So a jazz bass is kind of the other end of the spectrum for you?
No, you know, I own jazz basses and stuff. As far as like just, you know, as far as the basic sound, you can make a P bass sound pretty much like whatever you need it to sound like, unless you're going for an extreme jazz bass tone. But even then, you can roll off on it. And still, you can play blues, you can play jazz, you can make it happen with all those sounds. It really is right up the middle. I was calling this bass to me is like the Ford F-150 of basses, but it looks like a Chevy.
Right. I mean, were you hip to Dusty Rhodes, him playing kind of the Telecaster thing, was that a influence on you at all? Or
not really. You know, my influences come more from like how cool, you know how cool the Rickenbackers look.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but with that pewter bridge and that funky pickup, you're dialing your amp constantly, and you are pigeonholed. And I always thought back in the day that Tommy Stinson from the Replacements looked so fucking cool playing that. But I know he was recording with a P bass. There's no way in hell you got that. You know, look at Geddy Lee. Looks great playing one of those things, and he could pull it off. I'm sure he dialed it through his amp. But what's he playing now? You know, Fender Jazz, P-Jazz combo, or whatever it is. That's it's a great bass.
Funny.
So I think it's another great option too for kids or adults or anybody. Like the country guys might pick it up and go, "Fuck yeah!" Now, you know, I can only P bass and keep the look. You know.
So this is the one bass you're using. You said there was a second bass mainly.
The second bass that I'm using is I found a 1972 P bass with a maple neck that is milled really flat, and it's bright to the extent where it's almost like it has a 0 fret on it. You know, which is,
really?
Yeah. Which is a 0 fret, for anyone who doesn't know, is literally like, you know, set right behind the nut, between the first fret and the nut. And it's just, you know, to clarify for a kid that may not know.
Oh, so you're saying on?
It sounds like that.
I mean, so it sounds like there's a fret beyond the.
Yeah, like there's a metal fret, literally a millimeter on the fretboard.
Right.
You know, past
on the other side of the.
On this, on the plain side of the nut.
I see.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. Wow, interesting. So, I mean, can you talk a little bit about the technique? I mean, on the new record, you're going in there to record. I mean, how does a bass track get recorded? I mean, are you in there playing live with the guys? I mean, are you laying for a drum track?
We go for drum tracks. Billy, I'll let Bill. You know, a lot of times we used to go in and record it all together, but we find it's a lot. We found over the last 2 years it's a lot tighter if it's just, you know, if I write the tune or Billy writes the tune or whatever it is. It's a lot tighter if you just go in with the guitar, because Trey's got so much going on in his head all the time. He's thinking melody, he's thinking guitar, you know, he's thinking bass, he's thinking drums. So if you take one of those things out and just play the guitar and the basics, and he can just nail the groove, then we can all come in and lock behind it. And so we're looking for a good drum track. Then Billy will go in and put his guitars on, and by that time I'm so wound up, I'm done in 45 minutes. You know, and that's me being anal.
Really?
Well, for the most part, man. I mean,
you're pretty much like a one, two take kind of guy.
Well, yeah, for the most part, but it's not just that. It's the fact that we spent, you know, the better part of a year and a half, in pre-production. You know, we know the songs. My sounds are dialed. You know, I go in. I'm not screwing with sounds. I know exactly what I want for each tune, and it's time to play. I know the parts. Let's get it. I even know the little nuances that I want it to hear.
You do.
The little extra magic that happens in there, and if I don't hear it, well, then I just serendipitously go for different things. You know.
And what's your amp rig, Mike?
Right now, my amp rig, I've been using. I was using Mesa Boogie for years, and they make a great amp, but I was going for something totally different. Basically, I wanted to swap out and get back to 810s. You know, and I like Ampegs, but I was just looking for something different, and I've been harassing Alex at Fender about the Sun cabinets for years now. I'm like, hey, who makes the Suns? What's going on? Blah, blah. It's like, well, we're closing down the division and this and that, and we didn't talk about it for a long time, and then when I went down there to kind of talk about the P bass, or the Signature Series bass, it was basically I plugged in. I go, well, I'll plug in. You know, I'll check them out. You know, you see what you got. I put my bass in through it, and I was blown away.
Really?
I could not believe it. I was like, because I went in expecting them to sound like shit, to tell you the truth. I don't need to, you know, I don't need the sponsorship. I don't need someone to give me basses or anything. I've made plenty of money. There's nothing I can guarantee you. There's nothing this band needs or wants to do that's motivated by money. We don't have to, you know.
So then you're using Sun?
I mean, well, that's the thing. Most people did. I didn't know until I talked to Alex a year and a half ago that Sun was Fender.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, Sun has always been Fender, and so they closed it down and made it a division of Fender, which is ironic because if you ever read like any of the if there's any tech articles I did last year, you see that I used Sun cabinets on Warning, the Coliseum head, and so what I'm using now is the Fender, what's the 1200, which is essentially like the old Coliseum head, the old Sun Coliseum, yeah, and it sounds really good. You don't have to be a fighter pilot to fucking run it, which sometimes I would get frustrated with because whatever's happening, I love the Mesa Boogie M2000 or whatever it was. That is a bulletproof, awesome amp. But without my tech there, sometimes I was like, fuck. I needed him to go over it with me a few times before I really knew what was going on. I can't, like I said, this is just something I wanted to go with this new sound. And so now what I'm going to be doing is probably using 3 810 cabinets. And they made their 810 sounds really good. They didn't try and reinvent the wheel. They just...
Really? So you're using 10s for bass?
3 810 cabinets.
Yeah, I mean, but 10-inch speakers for bass.
Oh yeah.
My little different.
Well, that's the sound difference that I wanted because
so describe that.
Well, with Mesa Boogie, I was using with a single 18 with a 610 cabinet on top, and that 610 cabinet they made smoked is a really good thing, but it's just totally different than what I'm going for right now. It's I want a warmth, and this whole nother, it's kind of a whole nother niche right now. It's something. It's like there's a warmth. I'm looking for an ability to bind musically. There's times where we go into a certain tune, and I would be a little too crisp and too clear.
Right. Exactly.
And I can get that now, but it's just oh God, how can I say? With a small adjustment on the amp, I can go over and I can throw this kind of, it's not a blanket over the sound, but it's definitely like
it
kind of fuses it together. Well,
yeah. I guess that's what I was probably trying to say when we started the conversation about your playing and the sound of your bass on Warning, that it has this sort of this. It becomes like one element. The thing. It's not like there's a bass, and it's not like James Clapton and Ginger Baker.
Yeah, it's been a progression. I mean, if you listen to the records, it's kind of going that way.
Right.
And it's there's still a lot of playing in there, but maybe not. Like I said, not a lot of dancing out on Broadway. So.
Yeah, right. And obviously that's come from one, being able to design your own bass, understanding sounds, and obviously your own technique and just your fingers on the strings. I mean,
well, I think that bass, Leo Fender gets credit for that bass. I just brought it to date and redesigned it. It's a P bass by all accounts of the word. It's the original Fender precision bass. But the other thing is with that, on the back, I didn't put my signature on it because a lot of the signature basses, I just put a little star on the back, on the back of the neck because I think it looks cool, and that's my daughter. That's my daughter's thing because her name's Estelle.
I see.
But I don't think my name belongs on somebody else's bass. If they buy the bass, they should be able to fucking write their own anthem.
I understand. I hate to use the tags, and I know it makes you crazy and stuff, but you guys have gone through the punk, the proto-punk, the rock, the pop, the melodic rock thing, the heavy rock thing. Do you have to bring a different character to each one of these kinds of music? I mean, are you Mike Dirnt on Dookie as you were on Warning? Are there different techniques to playing the faster, punkier things, for playing the ballads? I mean, it's a different attack. Is it different?
There's a different sensibility to it. I think. I think if you're not afraid to express yourself in different ways. I mean, you listen to the Clash. A lot of people, the Clash is totally tough. They think London Calling right out the bat and this and that, man. But if you listen to Simon's bass playing, he was a sick reggae player and playing funk and things that there's some disco shit in there that I'm sure they wanted to forget after a while. Mick Jones was writing some shit that just hello, but I love that, man. You know why? Because there's vulnerability in that, and they're taking that, and going. They're stretching those outer limits. I don't think you should start playing by, attacking every type of music you can. I think you might want to, stick to one thing and, get it to fit for a little bit, establish a musical identity. But once you get there, branch out and try things. And are
you a person that practices? Are you sitting there trying to work up different lines?
I've never practiced. I've always played.
You're out there gigging.
No, I've always, even in my room, in my house, I never consider it practice. I've always just played. And I sit there and I get it, if I don't play my guitar for a day or so, all of a sudden I freak out, I get up in the middle of the night, I still do, and I run to my instrument, or when I get really pissed off or upset or whatever, that's been my outlet, my instrument, right? Guitar and bass they've been there for me, even any instrument really, piano, drums, those are there for you. Beat the shit out of those and you won't become some psycho sniper.
So you are a guitar player?
I originally, when I was a little kid, I started playing guitar.
Really?
And I was a good rhythm guitar player, but I was a lousy lead guitar player. I could write them, but I couldn't pull them off live. And so, one day our bass player had a dentist appointment, and I jumped on his bass, and it was like, oh shit, this sounds good.
Interesting. So,
and I still play both just as much, because it's a little easier to write songs on guitar, only because when you make a full strum, you hear all the notes, you hear all 6 strings, and then apparently, recently I just found out that when you hit a string, you hear like all 5, you hear like 3 or 4 octaves of it in that, and if you actually isolate it, you can hear it. You can hear all the little octaves inside that one string.
Right. And
so imagine playing 12 strings. You're hearing there's probably 36 notes in there, or tones.
Right, which is why a piano is sort of like the instrument for composers. Because you probably
piano does this thing. It moves you in and out of the major scale, whereas guitar can be more powerful because it'll rip you in and out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously you're on the cover of bass magazines, and you guys have had extraordinary success. But you're really sort of one of these unsung bass players.
Hey, call me the working man's bass player. I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's. I figure 100 years from now, who's going to give a shit who Mike Dirnt was? If my music is there, that's all I care about. I'm having fun.
Let me toss out a couple songs here, and you tell me what's going on bass-wise.
Sure.
Okay. Redundant has a kind of a nice. I call it a little Beatles kind of a little line in there.
I wanted to play my bass like a cello on that. And actually,
beautiful.
When that song was orchestrated by Beck's dad, is an arranger.
Oh, really?
David Hansen.
Oh, really?
Yes, he's a very good arranger. He's done a lot of stuff for us.
Wow.
And makes good sense, huh? They're both brilliant.
Yeah.
And so, I wanted to play like a cello, and when he arranged it, he actually wrote the cello parts because he thought that too, and they followed along with me.
Beautiful. That's beautiful.
And it's a lot of sliding, just pushing hard and sliding and reverberate, twisting the finger a little bit.
That's great. Hitching a Ride. It's kind of a walking bass line kind of thing.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a walking, probably Ode to Stray Cats type of bass line thing,
Right.
But I really wanted to get that slide up, really get that, all the little things, and then the burlesque part at the end. That was one of those things where Billy had written all of it up to the break, and then I was like, hold on, I got it, and then that dun 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 dun. It had this real vaudeville thing to it.
Yeah.
So just sometimes I think a lot of players write, or a lot of musicians write songs like they want it to sound like a particular song.
Right.
I write songs like I want it to sound like a particular era.
Interesting. That's very intriguing. Welcome to Paradise, kind of a rolling bass kind of a line.
Yeah, I was really playing off of Trey on that. Me and Trey that was the first song where me and Trey really, really locked and started going, just kind of he pitter, I patter.
Right, exactly.
So.
Interesting. Longview, kind of another melodic kind of a thing. Where did that style come from? It's kind of a...
I was playing a lot of jazz at the time.
Oh, really?
With a friend named John Repetto. He's a real good classical guitarist and jazz guitarist, and I was playing a lot of jazz with him out of like the real book. I've since then graduated to the fake book.
Really? So
the Beatles fake book.
So you're a reader?
You know, I was for a while. I'm more hooked on phonics. For a while, I was at the point where I could sit there and follow the notes a little bit, and I more than anything, I probably had a rapport of like certain songs I knew. You Blue Dolphin, Domino Biscuit, A Train, all that stuff,
Interesting.
And I go play a little, like cocktail jazz places, like jazz pubs and stuff like that with them. But really, that I was playing a lot of jazz, and so it was the shuffle. The beat was like, it was like,
right,
and the guitar was going da 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 sort of thing, and it was just natural. Half of that was written. As we know famously, I was written on LSD when I wrote the first do 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 do.
Oh, really?
And then the second half, the do 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 do. I don't know how to, but basically the second half where it descends was I wrote that at band practice, sober,
really,
in Billy's mom's living room.
So, Mike, is there a title for the new record?
I don't know if I'm allowed to divulge that yet.
Is there a working title? Make up something.
Oh, let's just call it American Idiot.
American Idiot. It will be out when?
We're open by August.
Open by August?
I mean, let's say August because it's we're on schedule.
Right. What is? I'm gonna.
The
thing that you listen, you go, wow, that's it's one of those timeless, like Michelle, but you know what I mean. Anything.
I've just gone through all these different, like little emotional things. I mean, I think every time I play something new, and I really think that I've got it. I've crossed another boundary. When we covered Op Ivy's Knowledge, that was real simple walking bass line for me. When we did Longview, that was me at the height of my getting into jazz. There's blues things I want to experience or experiment with at some point. I've done little, almost like classical things. Like there's a song on Kerplunk called "No One Knows" that was just this little classical bass line thing that I wrote that Billy turned into a song, and I was like, wow, that actually. Could have just been this lame thing that I jam on my own, and Billy actually culminated with me. Welcome to Paradise. I mean, it's just there are a lot of bass lines out there that I think have conveyed emotionally what I was going for.
And on the other side of that, when you look back, maybe some of the other things, are there?
I've got one.
When you go,
I have one regret.
One regret.
Me and Billy got in a fight in the studio, and I was pissed off, and so I just went in and laid down. It was for this. It was a B-side of a B-side of a B-side sort of thing. But out of the 100 and whatever many songs we've done now, there was one little hook. I can't remember right now. It wasn't Rotting. It was
somewhere there.
It wouldn't be in this disclosure. No, it's like
it was something really vague. That was never recorded.
It was put out somewhere, but it was vague. And there was a harmonic thing that, let's see, it was like right around the time we recorded the song Rotting, but it wasn't that tune. And there was I was just pissed off, and so I put down the bass line, but there was this extra harmonic thing that I know would have been a really good hook, and I didn't do it. And later on I was like, you know what, I learned a lesson, and I said, you know what, I'll never do that to myself or my music again, or my band, because at the end of the day, it's not about me.
Right.
It's about putting this music onto some listenable format and getting it out there for some kid who hasn't got shit else but music. He's got headphones, and that's his only escape from his either abusive family or pedophile father, whatever the fuck it is.
I understand. So in a sense, really, when you're playing, I mean, obviously you're not thinking of that kid back in North Dakota, but in a sense, you're trying to you're bringing everything you possibly can to the playing and the bass
Yeah,
part.
I mean,
and
I think sometimes the best thing you can do in a bass line is just eat a big fat piece of humble pie, and play what's appropriate. And other times, it's time to fucking pull the lid off and let it rip.
Last question.
Last question. We're okay.
What is the frustrators? What are the frustrators?
Side project. A couple friends of mine, all from the Rhode Island area, or around Providence area. My friend Terry Linehan, Art Tedeschi, and Jason Chandler. Just good friends. We've all got side projects. Me, Billy, and Trey. It's one of those things we never take it seriously, but we've got so much music in us. Even those guys, they come up with ideas, and we just basically another good excuse to get drunk and play shows for under 100 people.